You're welcome along to the polling station with Johnny Ward and William Kedjanyi. And what a historic day we have, potentially anyway. Here is the front of the Irish Times, which says that the Taoiseach, the Irish Premier, is pessimistic on the prospect of a Brexit deal. But William Kedjanyi, one punter with starsports, was not so pessimistic about a deal happening in 2020. And these truly are seminal times for the two islands and for the EU.
Yeah, absolutely. We are living through history every day. Now, the said punter yesterday placed, I think what we can say is a substantial bet on a deal being struck. He did this at 4-7, just before news broke of a breakthrough on Northern Ireland. Now, that was a big moment. I agree, it probably makes a deal likelier. We're now 2's on that a deal is struck, and 6-4 that it doesn't happen. I think the market's possibly a bit unbalanced by that money, but I think there's still a deal to be done, is the main takeaway, both in a political betting sense and also in the sense of politics generally.
What does all this mean for Boris Johnson, and in terms of his political currency, how important is it that a deal is done?
I think very important for the medium to long-term health, and actually probably the short-term health of the government, to avoid no deal. This is because no deal is the most disruptive form of Brexit. I think it has the biggest impact on ordinary people, and I think that any goodwill the government has had from the early parts of the year, where they had a really big polling lead over Labour, is probably gone, and that's probably the same for Johnson too. So I'd say very important that they avoid a deal. They avoided no deal, I should say.
Yeah, we'll get to, I suppose, the vaccine rollout as well. I think that might feature in one of the Q&As later. But, you know, it really is an extraordinary premiership for Johnson. Just all the things that, notwithstanding the fact that he got the virus himself, and, you know, his popularity was, I think it was really an indication of how bizarre people's mindset can be, that his popularity rose when he got the coronavirus, which to me made no sense. But has he a chance to redeem himself over the next few months?
Yes, there is a big chance for the government to actually score some really big wins. A smooth vaccine rollout would be one of them. We'll talk about that later. A Brexit deal being achieved would be another one, although that said, it appeals, I think, to it appeals to a less large majority of voters than it would have done when he did the same with the withdrawal agreement, because he went to Leo Varadkar, the two met. I think it was in Cheshire. And of course, he came out, and that was, I think, hailed as quite a big win by Johnson's supporters. Now, this would be different. I think there's more to do, probably, to reach that target of a deal. But I think you could dress it up in the same way, even if there'll be some people who won't be happy with it. Looking forward at those two things, I think if the government can get both right, and it's not an easy task, and the government, I think, has had plenty of failures this year, there's goodwill to be won back for the British public.
And just briefly, in terms of, I do like mentioning the Scottish referendum, which, I mean, again, we're talking about when this might take place, but Scottish independence referendum, just on the site now, will there be a Scottish independence referendum before the end of 2025? Yes, 10-11, no, 4-5. And if there were 4-7, that there would be a yes vote, which I think is certainly value. But is there a big enough window for this to happen before the end of 2025? And how does Brexit kind of influence all this?
It's tight in terms of the window, because I still believe this government is not going to have any sort of snap election. If there is a changeover of prime ministers, I think they'll do what they did with Theresa May and have her, or, you know, a replacement. I think most likely Rishi Sunak, at least that's what the betting market says, in place for quite a while. I don't think any government, especially in this day and age, is going to willingly give up a majority as large as this one has, even if it's been tested already. But I think the fact Brexit is happening anyway is probably going to be the bedrock of the Yes campaign. I think the union and its general relationship has been changed in lots of different ways, but that, I think, is still, you know, the most important systemic change we've had since the first referendum. In my opinion, and I'm going on a tangent here, I think it does demand a new vote at some point, but I don't think this government will be the one to give it to them. So you're probably counting on the results of the next general election, and Keir Starmer needing SNP seats for some sort of coalition, which is entirely possible for a 65 and a hung parliament, and the two sides are neck and neck, or hypothetical. But that will be used as a stick to beat Labour with, absolutely, as it was with Ed Miliband. There was a lot of SNP Labour coalition fears about Ed Miliband, and I think Starmer will have to face that same challenge at some point.
Yeah, just I suppose to finish up on that, it's 6-4 that Boris departs next year. 6-4, Boris Johnson leave office year is 2021 6-4, and 11-10 2024 or later. There's also betting on the 2 years in between. But let's get to the US. Certain rival bookmakers probably incurring the wrath of punters by still not paying out on the election. I think we can say Big Joe has won at this stage. Sleepy Joe has won, surely, hasn't he?
Yes, he could literally go to sleep and still be declared the winner. All of the electoral votes he needs have been basically certified or are about to be certified. The Trump campaign is 1 for 42, I think, in legal actions. A lot of money's been wasted, a lot of laughs have been had, but it is over. And I would imagine that Biden will be certified by the Electoral College as the official president-elect, at which point a certain betting exchange is probably going to settle that market. But no, it is all done. The focus now moves to Georgia and the Georgia runoffs, and this is huge.
Yeah.
The control of the Senate for the Democrats, if they were to win both races, would give Biden and Democrats control of all three branches of government. It's also as huge to the Republicans, because I think many Republicans who were never Trumpers voted for Biden with the hope they could keep the Senate, to keep him on a leash. It's literally, I think, much the first part of Biden's presidency on the line. So fascinating to get some early polling of high quality this week, which put John Ossoff at 48.7% and his incumbent David Perdue at 47.9%. The next race is Raphael Warnock, 49.2%, and Kelly Loeffler, 47.0%. Now, the two Republicans are behind, but they're behind by just a fraction, yet they're favourites. We're 2's on Perdue, and we're 47 Loeffler.
Yeah, so let's get to the Q&A to finish up this week's show. And we did have one question in relation to, I think, the vaccine and its obviously the repercussions for the popularity of the government and so forth. Great to see. Again, it's actually the front of the Irish Times today, an Irish lady being the first to get the vaccine across the world.
Indeed.
And, a really good day in a pretty grim year.
Yeah, absolutely. It was wonderful, I think, to see some of the hope and the joy on the faces of those getting the vaccine for the first time. God willing, we can have a nice, smooth rollout and look forward to doing many of the things that we couldn't do this time last year, or this year, I should say, in 2021. The question comes from John, who's at ClevelandTop on Twitter, and it is a good one, I think, about the government's political implications for a smooth vaccination rollout, because if they do it well, I think there's going to be some goodwill to be won back from the British public.
Yeah.
Goodwill that I think has been spurned with some pretty appalling policy decisions and some really bad communications this year on COVID. Other really interesting questions. Ian Price at GoTboy asked, what are the odds on a snap election in Jan to March of 2021? We are 12's an election next year. In Jan to March, I would say I'd be comfortable laying 33s and even above, to be honest with you. There'll be too much going on, deal or not, for an undertaking, I think, of that size, to be honest with you. Another coronavirus question, bit tongue-in-cheek, I think, from Stuart Akerster, but was Matt Hancock's crocodile tears on Good Morning Britain yesterday the single most cringeworthy thing we've seen during the pandemic? Have you seen this?
I have not.
Okay, I will send you a video link yesterday. I think I honestly think the stress of being health secretary during the pandemic, and I'm not commenting on Matt Hancock's job performance. I think, frankly, everybody in government has underperformed, but I think the stress has definitely got to him. As to be fair, it probably would any health minister at any point in this time. And to be honest with you, I just think he was having a bit of a moment. It looked cringeworthy, though. It didn't really look made for TV. I'm sure he'll say the feeling was genuine, but it did look a teensy bit odd.
Do you think you'll ever cry on the polling station, William, actually? And if so, why?
Would you ever see me cry in a polling station? I'll tell you what, probably. If I was to land a really big winner, like 25s and above.
It would at least be genuine tears.
Yeah. to be fair, it has been an emotional one. And polling station viewers, you missed all the chances to see me cry probably during election night, which was, gosh, some roller coaster. Interesting one from @ChinaStream. What are the odds that the foreign aid budget goes back to 0.7 GDP during a Starmer government? I thought about this, initially made it odds on, then initially made it 101. I think it'd be one of the first things he put in a hypothetical manifesto.
Right.
And last but never least, @Raleigh, who is from the Trash Future podcast, asked, what do you think it would take for Matt Hancock to have lunch with me? I priced this up 611 to 1. That is the amount of people the Trash Future podcast follows on Twitter.
Nice.
I imagine it's also the amount of parkour moves Matt Hancock has in his armory. So, yeah, 611 to 1 on Matt Hancock having lunch with Riley of the Trash Future podcast within the next year.
That's a beautiful price, 611 to 1, a special price, and probably not value, it must be said. William, that was excellent as ever. I hope you enjoyed the rest of this beautiful time to be involved in British politics.
Yes, it's some way to say it. Onwards to all of the discourse over the next week, and of course, stay tuned to the Star Sports Twitter feed for our latest Brexit odds and manoeuvres. There'll be plenty of updates. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, as ever.
Yeah, indeed. A lot of you are probably vote on, bet on horses and, all the vagaries that involves. Here, essentially, you're betting on something entirely different. It's 6-4 that there won't be a trade deal, 1-2 that there will in 2020. And you're betting on individuals and you're betting on Big Boris and characters like that. So maybe it's a little bit more predictable what will happen. Thank you very much. And we shall talk to you next week.